Hello YouTube, this is Dragon Man. Welcome back to the Dragon's Lair. It's been over a week since I've made a video for you all, so I'm going to be doing something special for you. This is a deck profile video, and it is of my ElementSaber deck. I finally got it up and running. I'll say this now, this is one of my most favorite decks that has ever came out for Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, I have not tested it out in tournaments, but I won't test it in tournaments because I don't play in tournaments. This is my choice, but if you like how I build my deck, you're more than welcome to try it out. Plus the ElementSabers, they're actually a pretty cheap deck. So starting off, of course, I play with 3 ElementSabers Lupalia. I'm pronouncing her name wrong. Mana. Yes, it's supposed to be a girl, I believe. Mana's skill is, she's one of your monsters you special summon, and she is the backbone of the deck. Without Mana, the ElementSaber deck actually kind of falls apart. Basically, while she's in your hand, you can send ElementSaber monsters from your hand to the graveyard to special summon her, and depending on their attributes, you get certain effects. And the effects, if you send a Earth and a Wind, ElementSabers and Elemental Lords on your field cannot be destroyed by battle. Water and Fire cannot be destroyed by card effects. Or send Light and Dark, your opponent cannot target it with card effects. And with how it goes, you can get 2 of these things to go off whenever you summon her. So the idea thing to do is to send a Earth, Fire, Water, and Wind. One of the combination of one of those 2, just so you can make it where your monsters cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects. Targeting usually is not a big problem. Next, I play 3 copies of her original form. ElementSaber Lupalia. Man, I cannot pronounce these names. Lupio? Lapio. I'm going to stop now. Now, what makes... Okay, her stats are low. Defense is good, but ElementSaber, you always play them in attack mode. I almost never see them in defense mode. Ever. Just... Especially if Mana's on the field, what's the point in putting them in the defense mode? Her skill is a quick effect. Also, this card is your spell and trap card nullifier for against your opponent, and it's a once per turn skill. You can send all ElementSabers. They deal with sending ElementSabers from your hand to the graveyard to activate their effects. And because hers is a quick effect, you can activate during your opponent's turn. Whenever your opponent activates a spell or trap card, pay the cost, negate its activation, and destroy it. So that's what she does. And of course, play 3 copies of her. Next, I play 3 copies of ElementSaber Molehu. He's another quick effect user. Send an ElementSaber monster from your deck from hand to the graveyard. Target 1 face-up card your opponent controls and turn it face down defense mode. That is really cool because it can stop either attacks or just stop your opponent from link summoning. Link summoning, XC summoning, synchro summoning. I think the only one that probably won't stop is fusion summoning. Cause I don't know. I've never seen someone try to fusion summon with a face down card. Never seen it. But if he's ever in defense mode, well, he only has 0 attack, 0 defense, but he has 1900 attack points. So there's him. Next is I play 3 copies of ElementSaber Makani. Honestly, I want to say this is a chick. I want to say Makani is your he's your monster searcher, essentially. While he's on the field, send one ElementSaber from graveyard, from hand to graveyard. Search your deck for one ElementSaber or Elemental Lord monster from your deck. Add it to your hand. And the thing is, if you happen to not know, other than mana, all ElementSaber monsters, they have the secondary skills of, while they're in the graveyard, they can change their attributes. You'll find out why. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I had to deal with my kittens real quick. So yeah, they all have that skill to change their attributes. And anybody who does not know ElementSabers, you'll find out why. And because of that, you probably are thinking like, well, sounds like they're really hand heavy. Well, you'll find out in a bit. Now I see lots of people not play a single copy of Nalu. Why? Her effect's kind of generic. ElementSaber Nalu is kind of like Makani, except instead of grabbing cards from deck added to your hand, he, gotta say this with some of these, grab them from the graveyard and add them to the hand. That's what Nalu does. Now the reason why I play Nalu, because one, I'm a purist. I only play, I try my best not to play complete tech cards. But I still play Nalu just because of that. But also, just exchanging monsters is actually not a bad thing. Say there's one that's dead in your hand. Well, exchange it. Now, the next one, I see lots of people play only one copy of this guy. But I play two. I don't play three because that just clutters up the deck. His effect is just kind of stupid. You literally send ElementSaber monster from your hand to the graveyard to send one ElementSaber or Elemental Lord from deck to graveyard. So essentially, he just turbos your graveyard. Well, he just pluses the graveyard. So I only play 2 copies of him just for mana. Next, I play 3 copies of ElementSaber Aina. Now, she's really good. It's just that I never get to use her effect because I usually always have a full field. And I'll tell you why. Aina's skill is once per turn you can send an ElementSaber monster from your hand to the graveyard. Target one ElementSaber monster, or, except for her, or Elemental Lore that has been summoned properly from your graveyard and special summon it, ignoring its summoning conditions. So now, usually people only like to use her for the Elemental Lord summoning, whereas others, I have not used her for her other main skill. Essentially, while she's on the field, you can special summon elements, as long as they're like elements. If you're just trying to get ElementSaber monsters, you can summon them all day long, essentially, with Aina. Once per turn. Keep that in mind. They're all once per turn. Next, we move on to my Elemental Lords. Now, because just to fill up deck, I do play different copies of the Elemental Lords. First, I'll play 1 copy of Windrose, the Elemental Lord. Now, all Elemental Lords have the effect they cannot be normal summoned or set. They can only be special summoned from a hand by having exactly so many of their elements in the graveyard. Since he's winning, you need 5 win attribute monsters in your graveyard. And although I don't see a lot of people play this card just because it's kind of niche, but I play it just in case I'm forced to play against a back row deck. Little backboard, however you want to put it. But essentially, he destroys... Okay, I thought he bounces them. No, he destroys all spells and trap cards on your opponent that my opponent controls. Okay, so... a lot better. except unless apparently you're playing against a true Draco deck, because they like having their spell and trap cards destroyed. Essentially, I'll play 1 copy of Grand Soil, the Elemental Lord, as like Windrose, same thing, but with Earth. Now he and the Water Lord got reprinted as promos in the Flames of Destruction Special Edition. So that's really cool, because this card here was originally a $50 card. Now he's like an $8 card because he's still good. So if you've been itching to build Element Sabers, now's the best time to get it. But Grand Soul, what he does on summon, you can special summon 1 monster from either player's graveyard. He's essentially a monster reborn. But I usually just prefer just using my own cards. That's just me. Not unless my opponent has something I really want. Now, something I did not cover with the Wind. All Elemental Lords have the effect. If this card is... if he leaves the field, doesn't matter how, you are forced to skip your next battle phase. But as long as mana is on the field, you send fire, water, wind, and earth, a combination of those two, like wind and fire, water and water and earth, those type of combinations, well, they can't be destroyed by battle or by card effects. Next is, oh boy, the Moliglacia. Ugh. Some of these cards are so hard to pronounce, I can't speak. The Elemental Lord. The reason why this one is the one that people saw after, and this is the reason why he was this so expensive originally. When you summon him, you choose 2 cards in your opponent's hand and force them to discard them. He negs your opponent 2 cards on summon. And depending on how you build your deck, you can easily get this guy early on. And I play 1 copy of Fossage, the Elemental Lord, who is, best way to put, a Raigeki that's a monster. So, yeah. Don't really need an explanation about that. Now, this is one of my tag cards, and he's just there for 1, filler, 2, board presence, 3, he's easy to get out with how this deck runs. Dark Arm Dragon. To anybody who doesn't know, you can only, similar to these, you cannot normal summon or set him. You can only special summon him, but unlike the Elemental Lords, which require 5 of their attributes, Dark Arm only needs 3. And while he's on the field, you can banish 1 dark monster from your graveyard to basically nuke 1 card on your opponent's field. And as long as you can do it, you can do it multiple times. Yeah, he targets cards, not just monsters with spells. But he's up there with the Elemental Lords because 1, same status. Okay, next. Now, to people who thought it was like, well, it sounds like the Elemental Lord, the ElementSaber deck. Why do I keep... Thank you, Elemental Heroes. ElementSabers, they seem like a very hand-heavy deck. So you play cards with that keeps up hand. No, not really. This is their key card, which is their second backbone. Palace of the Element Lords. This thing does a lot of things. All monsters you control gain 200 attack and defense for each different attribute in your graveyard. Since there's 6 different attributes, the most your board can get is 1200 from this field spell, which 1200 from a field spell, that's really insane when you get down to it. You can add also, once per turn, you can add 1 ElementSaber monster from your deck to your hand, but skip your next battle phase on your next turn. Once per turn, if an ElementSaber monster from your hand or field would send cards from hand to the graveyard, you can activate the effect. You can send that many ElementSaber monsters from your deck to the graveyard instead. So, if you can start off with this, and you have mana in your hand, instead of getting rid of cards from your hand and send them to the graveyard, you're sending cards from your deck to the graveyard instead. Now, I'm sorry if this, and of course, being a field heavy deck, you play 3 copies of this. And I'm sorry if this video is dragging out. This is my first ever deck profile, so I'm trying to cover my tracks. Just make that one stack. Now, ElementSabers, you play a lot of, it's mostly going to be a monster. You play hardly any spells and traps. You'll see why. Now, this is another tech card in my deck and that I added from the Lair of Darkness, and you can get these almost anywhere. I play 3 hand destructions. Why I play hand destructions? 1, it helps me dig into my deck to try either pull Palace, or pull one of the Elemental Lords, or pull monsters that I can actually use. Completely use. And it just also fills up your graveyard quicker for Elemental Lords. So that is a thing. And people who don't know happen to know what hand destruction does. Play this. Each player sends 2 cards from the hand to the graveyard and then draws 2. So really, you the player, next 1. That's when that hand destruction has actually come through for me in this deck multiple times. And being a field spell heavy deck, I play 3 copies of Terraforming. Play this, add 1 field spell from deck to hand. Simple enough. And because it's limited, I'll play 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army, add 1 level 4 lower warrior monster from your deck to your hand. All ElementSaber monsters are warrior types. Now, I play 3 copies of Elemental Training. And what this card does is your opponent cannot target Palace of the Element Lords you control with card effects. It also cannot be destroyed by card effects. Once per turn, you can tribute 1 monster you contribute 1 monster, special summon 1 ElementSaber monster from your deck with a different original attribute than that monster. And then here the next. So this one's used to 1 filter through your deck, plus into your drop zone, so on, so forth. Also, it's just used to protect Palace. I have not seen anybody using its final skill. Plus, there's no need to use its final skills. You can send this face-up card from your field to the graveyard, discard your entire hand, then add 1 Element Lord monster from your graveyard to your hand equal to the number of cards discarded. I don't see the point in... Unless you're playing multiple copies of the Elemental Lords, which out of all of them, the only one you would probably play multiple copies of is Fossage and Glacia. Those are the only ones you probably want to play multiple copies of. And just because I play 2 Metaverse, you pretty much add 1 field. It's a Terraforming. That's a trap card. But yeah, but it also has the field. I can take 1 field spell from my deck. I can either activate it or add it to hand. Question with the activating it is like, I guess just play it. So that's really interesting. Now, yes, you can play this with the ElementSaber deck with an extra deck, but you also cannot. Well, you don't need to. You don't need an extra deck. Literally, right now my extra deck is only consisting of 3 cards. Proxy Dragon. Let's see, requires 2 monsters. If cards you control will be destroyed by battle or by card effects, you can destroy the 1 monster this card points to instead. Thing is, with how a lot of these go, it's like you don't really use them for their effects most of the time, or heck, even their link arrows. This is the only one that's actually people use every time. 2 warrior monsters. If this card is linked summon, add one warrior monster from your deck to your hand, but for this turn you cannot normal summon or special summon it. I don't bother with its final skill, which is sending equipped cards from your deck to your graveyard to special summon monsters. This deck doesn't run. And I run Decode. Decode Talker. Monsters is this card points to. He gains 500. And whenever my opponent activates a card that targets a card I control, I can contribute one monster this card points to, negates activation, destroy. This is my deck. Biggest problem with this, if you can't start off with Palace on your first turn, this is the biggest hindrance to the ElementSabers. Is if you can't start off with Palace, you're dead. Which is one reason why I run Hand Destruction, to try to dig. Now, the only thing, because we are in a Link era, the only thing the ElementSabers are literally missing is their own Link monster. And it could be a secret rare for all I care. Here's what it can do. It can be a Link 1. Secret rare. We don't have one. No, I think we do have those. Its arrows are pointing up, so can't really completely use it. But its skill is essentially on summon, search Palace. It can also have that. It does not need to have the skill change to the attributes. It does not need it. If it has it, yay. If not, oh well. The whole point of it would be searching for Palace. That's literally the only thing that the ElementSabers are missing, is that. Now, is this deck perfect? No. No deck is perfect. One of the best ways to brick the ElementSabers is if you happen to have evenly matched. Well, congratulations, you just killed the ElementSabers. Congratulations. But that's one of the best ways to break their boards. And with my playthroughs with this deck, usually with how it goes, by turn 3, if I'm playing against a bad or an average player, by turn 3, if I can get my things to go off every turn, I win. If I'm playing against a good player, probably make it to turn 4, turn 5. After turn 5, why are you still alive? So, it's a pretty quick deck as long as you know what to do, which, fortunately for me, after playtesting the deck over and over and over again, I can almost play the deck blindfolded. Almost. Of course, I'm probably exaggerating on that. So, sorry for the dragged out video, and I will be making more videos for the future, trying to make more, just getting content out there. I hope you enjoyed this ElementSaber deck. If you want me, I do have other decks. If you'd like to see them, please leave a comment. And thank you. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye.